Jack's wedding, when everything falls into place. In a warm and intimate setting, amidst the soft glow of candlelight and the gentle melodies of music, Jack's wedding unfolded like a perfectly composed love song. But behind the smiles and heartfelt congratulations, quiet emotions stirred within the hearts of those witnessing this special day. There was deep joy in a mother's eyes as she watched her son step into a new chapter of his life. There were bittersweet memories surfacing in the hearts of old friends as they reflected on the journey they had shared. There was also the silent sorrow of those who had loved but never been loved in return. And, in another corner, there were polite handshakes masking the careful calculations of those who viewed life through the lens of power and advantage. Each person held their own perspective, their own emotions. And tonight, as Jack and Toan became each other's future, every story, every thought, came together to paint a complete picture of Lviv, what we can hold on to and what has forever become a thing of the past. Let's take a look at the thoughts and emotions of each person in this video. Jack's mother. A mother's joy and heartfelt reflections. She stood quietly in the grand hall, her eyes fixed on her son. Today was Jack's big day. Dressed in a crisp black suit, he walked beside his bride, his eyes shining with happiness. Watching him, a deep sense of pride swelled in her heart. Her son had truly grown up, but along with that joy came a quiet melancholy. Every mother must eventually witness this moment, the day her child no longer belongs solely to her. The day he finds another hand to hold instead of hers. Memories of the past came rushing back. She remembered when Jack was just a tiny boy, running to her, tugging at her sleeve, excitedly babbling about the little stories of his day. She recalled the sleepless nights when he had a fever, the times he stumbled and fell, and how she was always the first to pick him up. Back then, Jack needed her so much. But now, standing beside him was Toan, the one who would walk with him through life. She smiled at the bride. Toan was a gentle young woman, and the way she looked at Jack was filled with love. But did she truly understand Jack the way a mother did? When he was exhausted from work, would there be someone to prepare him a warm cup of tea, just as she always had? When he faced difficulties, would there be someone to patiently listen without judgment? She knew that children must one day have their own families. Still, a quiet longing lingered in her heart. Jack would soon be caught up in work, marriage, and life's many responsibilities. Would he still drop by on lazy Sunday afternoons to visit his mother? Would he still call her just to say, "Mum, I miss you"? But a mother's love is never selfish. She could not hold on to her son just to ease her own loneliness. Looking at Jack today, she knew he was ready to love and to be loved. And as long as he was happy, she would be happy too. She stepped forward and gently took Jack's hand. Her son squeezed her hand in return, as if making a silent promise. She didn't need him to say anything, just this was enough. She knew that no matter what, she would always be his mother, and her love for him would remain forever and always. Luan, a friend watching Jack step into a new chapter. Luan stood still amidst the crowd, his wine glass swirling gently in his hand, mirroring the rhythm of his thoughts. His gaze rested on the stage where Jack and Toan stood, surrounded by well-wishers and heartfelt congratulations. Today was Jack's wedding, the man who had been his companion through so many years. His friend's happiness should have been a source of pure joy, and in many ways, it was. But deep inside, there was a strange feeling, a quiet emptiness, a lingering nostalgia. He remembered the nights they spent wrestling with work, those late hours in the office when Jack was just a young man brimming with ambition, always pushing himself beyond his limits. He thought about the countless evenings at their favorite cafe, discussing dreams, plans, and the road ahead. Back then, Jack's world revolved around his career and the friendships they had built. But now, everything had changed. Jack's life had made room for someone even more important than his ambitions, someone he wanted to protect, someone he wanted to share every moment with. Luan understood that from this day forward, Jack would no longer be the man consumed only by work. His priorities would shift. His time would be divided. Their late-night conversations, their spontaneous meetings, they would inevitably become less frequent. But isn't that the way life goes? Everyone eventually finds a place to belong, a home to return to. And Jack deserved this. Luan quietly raised his glass, his eyes never leaving his friend.
Congratulations, Jack. You found the one who will walk with you for the rest of the journey. No matter what, I'll still be here just like always.
A soft smile lingered on Luan's lips, but deep in his heart, he knew an old chapter had just closed, making way for a new journey. Not just for Jack, but for himself as well.
Giang, the one who stood on the sidelines of happiness.
Jack's wedding was as radiant and warm as the way he had always lived, strong, ambitious, and with just enough tenderness to make those around him feel at peace. From a distance, Giang watched as Jack gently took Toan's hand, his gaze filled with affection, his movements slightly awkward as he carefully adjusted her veil. She smiled, a quiet, knowing smile of someone who had once loved in silence, of someone who had experienced this feeling before. The feeling of loving someone without ever being able to step into their world. She couldn't quite recall when her feelings for Jack had begun. Perhaps it was during those long days working together on a big project, when he instinctively reached out to steady her after she almost tripped. Or maybe it was in those casual gatherings with friends, when he always remembered the little quirks of everyone around him, yet never noticed the way her gaze lingered on him, just a little longer than the rest. Giang used to believe that if she was just a little more patient, if she tried a little harder to close the distance, maybe Jack would finally see her. But in the end, she came to understand the truth about unrequited love. There are no what-ifs. There is only one reality. He was never meant for her. And today, as she watched him stand beside the woman he had chosen, she realized something else. She had never truly had a place in his heart. And perhaps that was for the best. Because if they were never meant to walk the same path, then maybe it was better never to take that first step at all. Quietly, she lifted her glass, whispering softly, not just to herself, but to everyone who had ever loved someone they could never have.
We'll be okay. There's someone out there for each of us, it's just not them.
And so, amidst the laughter and joy of the wedding, Giang chose to close this chapter of her heart, gently, without regret. The man who once pursued Toan, amidst the crowd, quietly watched the bride. Today, she was radiant in her white gown, her smile as gentle as the morning sun. Beside her, Jack held her hand firmly, as if declaring to the world that he would never let go of the woman he loved. Took a slow sip of his drink, letting the bitter warmth settle on his tongue before sinking deep into his chest. There was a time when he thought he might be the one standing beside her. He remembered those late afternoons when they would walk together after work, her voice light and carefree as she talked about the little things in her day, while he simply listened, treasuring every word as if it were the most precious thing she could share with him. He recalled the times when she was sad, and he would quietly hand her a cup of hot tea, sitting beside her without saying a word because he knew all she needed was a moment of silence to gather her emotions. In those moments, he told himself, maybe one day she will see me. But love is not something that can be earned with patience or kindness, because from the very beginning, Toan's heart had never belonged to him. He didn't blame her. He didn't blame Jack either. He only felt a quiet sense of loss, because no matter how much he tried, some things were simply never meant to be his. People often say that as long as you are sincere and persistent, love will eventually find its way to you. But reality isn't always so kind. Some roads, no matter how far you walk, will never lead to the destination you long for. Some hands, no matter how long you reach out, will never be held in return. Exhaled softly, setting his glass down on the table. Today, Toan had found someone who would protect her for life. And he, too, needed to learn how to move forward. Because sometimes, loving someone isn't about holding on, it's about knowing when to let go. With a smile and a heartfelt blessing. The former board of directors, a smile and hidden calculations. At one of the banquet tables, a few seasoned executives from the business world sat together, their glasses of wine glistening under the warm light. They smiled. They raised their glasses to toast Jack like old friends with nothing but goodwill. But one only needed a glance to see that their smiles weren't entirely sincere.
A talent like Jack, if he had stayed, we could have kept him under control. But now that he's left, who knows what kind of threat he'll become in a few years.
One of them swirled his wine slowly, his gaze thoughtful. Business veterans like them never truly believed in amicable departures. Jack hadn't left because he lacked opportunities. He left because he refused to be anyone's pawn.
We offered him a great position, a promising future, yet he chose to walk away. Think about it, someone who can turn down power doesn't do so because they don't need it, but because they want to create something even greater on their own.
In business, a strong competitor wasn't as concerning as an ambitious and unpredictable one. And Jack was exactly that type of person. Tonight, they could stand here, exchanging polite words of congratulations with him. But tomorrow, in the boardroom, strategies would be drawn. How would they secure their position? How could they stay ahead before Jack became a real threat? An older executive set his glass down, a faint smirk on his lips.
Time will tell everything.
Jack and Toan. Love and a new beginning. Amidst the intertwined emotions of the night, Jack tightened his grip on Toan's hand. In their eyes was unwavering trust, a silent promise that from this moment on, they would no longer walk alone. They had endured trials, hesitations, heartbreaks, and waiting all of it had led them to this very moment. Not a perfect marriage, not a fairy tale free of storms, but a journey they had both chosen to embark on together, no matter what lay ahead. Toan gently rested her head on Jack's shoulder, feeling a weight lift from her heart. She no longer had to face her worries alone. With Jack beside her, with the warmth of his embrace, she knew she had found the right person. Jack looked at Toan, a deep sense of peace settling within him. There would be joyful days ahead, but also moments of exhaustion, unforeseen challenges waiting along the way. Yet, as long as she was by his side, as long as they held on to each other, he believed that nothing could break them. Outside, the night breeze whispered through the air, carrying with it the breath of a new beginning. A journey of love, companionship, and growth, a journey that Jack and Toan were ready to embrace together.